Someone named Pimpy evaluated one of my videos about the Iraqi dinar and Militia Man.
IRAQI Dinar Revaluation. Investment expert analyzes Militia Man and crew. Yeah, this is going to be brutal.
Yep, it was. And this one will be too. As a big proponent of free speech, I'm totally on board with people expressing alternate opinions of anything I say. But I hope they know that when they do, they're opening themselves up to a response. He and I are about 80% aligned. And there were a lot of places where he called me a liar or an idiot, but then turned around and said the same thing I just said. So I won't cover everything, but I do think a lot of his criticisms come from a few fundamental misunderstandings.
Because the things he says about the dinar are always the same thing that these so-called experts say about the dinar.
Well, if all the experts say the same thing, there might be some merit to it. This guy debating me about investments is like someone debating a doctor about whether smoking really causes cancer. I don't exactly know why he chose to do it, but here we go. The Iraqi dinar revaluation. It's never gonna happen.
Okay, right from the jump street, for him to say it's never going to happen is false. We've seen it devalued, revalued over the past couple of years. He's got to be more specific.
No one is buying the Iraqi dinar because they think it'll go up 10%. That's literally not even enough to cover the fees to buy and sell it. When people refer to the dinar revaluation, they're referring to a significant revaluation that would make people rich overnight. And by the way, I was more specific about this. It is physically impossible for a currency to revalue up significantly overnight. Now, if you want to understand why, I would encourage you to check out my Currency Pro playlist, specifically video number 9 of the 10-part series. But here's where his lack of investment knowledge really starts to show.
I think what he's trying to say is the Iraqi dinar is not going to have its rate reinstated.
Yes, we are saying the same thing. But I'm not saying reinstated because that's not actually a real investment term. I know some in the dinar community say that, but the currency valuation is not on some temporary penalty rate or something. Its value declined massively because of overprinting during the war, and the value it was in the past is totally irrelevant to the value it will be in the future. It's literally not even the same currency that had about a $3 valuation. It was demonetized and replaced, but I digress. The main lesson here is that when pegged currencies have their target value changed up or down versus the reference currency, aka what they're pegged to, it's called devaluation or revaluation. There is no such thing as currency reinstatement. Here's another good one. Currencies are driven by supply and demand. A redistribution of oil wealth in the country could theoretically be good for the people of Iraq, but it would not drive more demand for the dinar, and that is what drives currencies.
The issue is they're using US dollars for oil transactions. If Iraq was smart, they would start doing business in Iraqi dinars, not the United States dollars.
No. The issue is that what Pimpy is suggesting is totally unrealistic because he doesn't understand how oil markets work. Iraq and basically every other oil producer in the world sells their oil in dollars. And neither is because they're not smart enough to do it in their own currency, like he suggests. First, no other company or country wants to hold dinars as reserves, which they'd have to do in order to buy oil shipments in dinars. The dinar is not nearly stable enough, liquid enough, or freely convertible enough to hold as a reserve. For this exact same reason, Iraq needs dollars to pay for imports because no one will want to accept dinars. So it's not the end of the world that they sell their oil for dollars. Second, you don't just walk into a store to buy oil like you're buying a pack of gum at the gas station. You buy it on the futures market. The vast majority of futures and other derivative contracts based on oil are priced in dollars. So unless a buyer wants to negotiate some sort of one-off discounted rate like countries are doing with Russia right now, or they want to settle the trades in UN where they'll have trouble converting it back into their own currency, they're going to use the widely available derivative contracts, which are priced in dollars. No one would buy oil in dinars. And here's another place where he misrepresents what I said.
The dinar is not a scam. It's a legitimate currency. Can it increase in value? Of course it could.
I never said it couldn't. I'm just saying it can't revalue up 1000x overnight, and the odds of it appreciating at all, based on fundamental analysis, are very low. I also never said the Iraqi dinar itself was a scam. The dinar is just a currency, but it is the basis for a common scam. Scammers mislead people to believe that the Iraqi dinar is about to revalue significantly and make them rich overnight. When someone actually buys the dinar, it involves roughly a 20% fee from the currency dealer. They are ultimately lying to you in order to take your money. That's a scam. Number 3, they're about to exit some sort of unspoken Chapter 7 UN sanction, which Militia Man guesses has something to do with the currency. Well, unspoken and can't find any data on it means it doesn't exist.
No, I did a video about that as well. They have been out of Chapter 7 for a while, but the part that was the issue was the sanctions on the currency.
Yes, I literally showed a source from the UN that confirms what I'm saying. If he wants to disagree, he's going to need to provide some concrete evidence. You can see from the UN's website that in reality, all Chapter 7 UN sanctions were removed in 2013, more than 10 years ago. There was also a part of the video where I said, there's also a parallel black market rate in Iraq, which was at $15.60 per dollar as of early October. Why would a currency trade at a lower valuation on the black market? It's because everyone in Iraq knows the dinar is likely to devalue at some point, so the market is moving ahead of that. He said I was wrong, but again, it's just because he doesn't fully understand how currencies work.
Yeah, that's not fully true. We also know that a lot of these countries that are under sanctions are willing to pay more in dinars to get their hands on US dollars because US dollars are more acceptable.
Well, first of all, only one country uses the Iraqi dinar, so I'm not sure which other countries he's referring to. And second, the dollar's about to be banned in Iraq, so I struggle to see how you could justify high demand for it based on being more acceptable in Iraq than the dinar.
Think about this. If I am in Iraq, do I want 1,310 dinars for every dollar? Or do I want the 1,550 dinars for every dollar?
Right, so exactly what I said. He's saying people want more dinars to give up a dollar. I'm saying people will pay more dinars to get a dollar. We're both just saying there's a different exchange rate in Iraq where the dinar is less valuable than it is at the official rate. In reality, no one wants to accept the dinar, so they'll have to pay in dollars for everything anyway.
Not true. Iran, who did $11 billion in trade with Iraq, was willing to start using the Iraqi dinar as their official currency at one time. I think it was like in 2018, 2019.
Oh, Pimpy, my bad, man. Iran, who was banned from the international dollar-based system in 2018, considered accepting something other than the dollar. Great example.
So to say that nobody would accept it is false. We know right now we have what? How many banks? 5 banks right now who are doing currency swaps with Iraq so they can start doing international trade. So that's not accurate what this man's saying.
No, it's pretty accurate. Every country has banks that would do currency swaps in dollars. There's nothing new about this, nor is this unique to Iraq. You know who accepts Iraqi dinars? Iraqi companies. They sell products in dinars and pay their employees in dinars, but pay for imports in dollars and sell exports for dollars. Now, how do they convert their dinars into dollars to buy imports to run their business? With these swap lines at the banks. How do they convert the dollars they earn from exports into dinars to pay for employees? The same swap lines at the banks. That has nothing to do with other countries accepting the Iraqi dinar for anything. But how will they get them to invest? Apparently, they're trying to pass an Iraqi Securities Commission law that would increase the purchase limit, allowing investors to buy up to 49% of the shares in Iraqi companies. Now, some people who have no idea how investing works thinks that will entice people to invest because they'll be able to own larger shares of companies. But there's just one problem. No one wants to buy any shares of Iraqi companies. That's like saying, hey bro, do you want to buy a jar of olives? And the guy's like, no, I don't like olives. And then you're like, okay, well then how about 10 jars of olives? I struggle to see why increasing a limit that no one is running up against would make any shred of difference.
Now, again, here we go. Let's be honest there, Mr. Financial Guy. What he's saying is both right and misleading. What I mean by that is, yes, Iraq is having problems bringing in foreign investors, but if they can get their act together, the big word in there is if, they could draw foreign investors to come in. And this would be a major step towards increasing the value of the Iraqi dinar. This is the part that I don't like about his video.
Now, despite him calling me dishonest and misleading, I think we agree on this one. He just wants me to be more pro-dinar. Well, let me clarify. I never said it wouldn't be good for the dinar if they attracted a lot more foreign investors. What I said was increasing the ownership limit to 49% will not help do that, in contrast to the misleading statements that Militia Man made. Pimpy's statements about them getting their act together are right, in principle, but there's a difference between fantasy and reality. They could definitely make some changes, diversify their economy. There are a lot of things they could do to improve their long-term outlook. The problem is they're not doing any of those things. So in my opinion, mentioning something that would be good if it happened when it's extremely unrealistic for it to actually happen would be much more misleading. Number 9. Kurdistan will now use dinar at all border crossings and airport transactions. Oh man, that is just so exciting. You mean to tell me that a region of Iraq will use Iraq's currency when people buy a bottle of water at the airport? Man, that's a game changer. Hold on, y'all, let me go buy some dinar.
Calm down, Sparky. I get what he's trying to say. But the truth of the matter is, if they're using dual currencies and you get away from using US dollars and strictly go to Iraqi dinar, that does help the dinar. He's just not being honest about it.
Okay, Sparky, just because you disagree with something I say doesn't mean I'm being dishonest. I didn't say it wasn't directionally positive. I said it wasn't a game changer. This is just one of those things that gurus say that sounds good when you have no concept of how investing or currencies work. But in reality, the scale of the impact will be tiny and meaningless. All right, for example, if you go buy a hamburger, will it help McDonald's stock price? I mean, they do make money from selling burgers, but that transaction is so small, it's not gonna make a noticeable difference. The Kurdistan border crossings, switching to the Iraqi dinar is just like that. That it is physically impossible for a currency to revalue up significantly overnight.
Well, what do you mean? Instead of it happening overnight, is it possible it goes up in increments?
Up at all? Yes. Up 1,000x or more, like the Dinar Gurus say? No. In 100 years, it cannot appreciate that much against the dollar. And let's distinguish between possible and realistic. Is it possible the dinar could gain value against the dollar gradually over time? Sure. Is it likely? No. Is it a smart investment? No.
The thing I like about the videos, everything he's saying, I've been saying now for years. Stay grounded and let's watch how Iraq progresses. It's not going to happen overnight. And for many of you, you go, what do you mean I've been waiting 20 years? I know, I'm sorry, but you can thank Iraq for that.
Now, let me say, I can appreciate that he's not as rah-rah gung-ho about the dinar as other gurus. But to be clear, I don't think it's a legitimate investment that you should just be patient with. It's a scam. You're paying a huge, massive, gigantic 20% fee on each side of the transaction. So you have to make about 40% just to break even. And the dinar is literally pegged to the dollar. For the people he's mentioning who have been waiting 20 years, I want you to ask yourself, what if it takes another 20 years? I think it's much more likely to devalue from here than revalue upward at all. But hey, let's say Pimpy is right. They get their act together and it goes up slowly over time. So let's ask ourselves, would that be a good investment? If it doubled in value over 20 years, would that be good? No, not at all. Let me show you. That would be the equivalent of a 3.53% rate of return before fees. If you paid a 20% fee to buy and a 20% fee to sell, that would be a less than 3% return after fees. You could get a 4.75% return on a 20-year treasury bond right now and guarantee yourself a much better return than that. If you earn an 8% annualized return, which is a conservative estimate for the stock market, you'd make a 366% return over 20 years. That is realistic. And it's far better than what you can expect from the Iraqi dinar. I want to thank Pimpy from the Other Side of Things channel for the interaction. It's been fun, and I hope we can do it again sometime. And last thing, if you want more investment insight from me, check out the link below in the description to join my free Discord. Thanks for watching.